So we can go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Kind of going to hop right into our agenda. I'm going to take a screenshot of the participants for our roll call rather than having everyone chime in.
And then Kyle, this is Linda Kiefer. I wanted to introduce Lisa McLean Vanderpool. She's our community involvement coordinator for EPA and the California Gulch Superfund site. So she's going to be helping us with some of the items that the health department has asked for in the past.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining, Lisa. So the first item on the agenda that I had to talk about was the repository use request update, and that's from the redevelopment happening in OU3. I've been reached back out to by Mr. Lichtenegger's environmental consultant regarding a waste pile that I think we had discussed back in around December of last year. They are still interested in using the repository to move that material to. They've provided analytical data in the past, and they've also done some revised calculations of the quantity of the request. It's looking like they're requesting moving about 1,200 cubic yards of material to the repository. And so I wanted to have a kind of brief discussion regarding that waste rock and whether or not we would be looking to approve them moving that material, or if we do not feel comfortable with that. Kind of wanted to open it up for discussion. If you guys had any questions regarding that material, just open it up for your discussion.
I feel like the biggest challenge on continuing to consider that is to understand what volume is left in the repository, right?
Right. So, my understanding is that we're a little over half of the capacity has been utilized. That's, rough estimate, kind of based on knowledge of what's gone in recently and what, had been used prior to me coming onto the project. But we're at or a little over half of the capacity. The overall capacity is 75,000 cubic yards of material, and I think we're just over 35. So, if we feel like a survey of that repository is needed before we move on with discussing any of these requests for repository use, I can work with the county to get a survey like that completed, and then we can circle back to this topic.
Or can we make a condition? I mean, are we prohibited? And I'm sorry, I probably should know this. Are we prohibited from requiring that a developer like this maybe provides us with that?
So I don't think it's outside. I think we can ask them to, yes. My understanding is that in the MOU, I think that the survey and kind of operations of the repository is, I think, the county's responsibility. But I think in this circumstance, we certainly could make that a condition of our approval. If we approve them to move the remaining 1,200 cubic yards, we would also request that they perform a survey.
Okay. I think I'd be interested in figuring out if we can kind of do that and wrap loose ends up in any way.
Yeah, I could respond back to the consultant, let them know that, we're conditionally thinking about approving this. on the, on the condition that, they perform a final survey.
Okay. Any other-
Guys, this is Melanie Granberg. Is that really what we're doing? Are we saying if you do a survey, we'll let you take the material there? Or are we saying you need a survey to determine whether we'll let you take the material there?
I mean,
Can we charge for the deposit, the use? And to cover a survey that we can do?
that I'm not sure of. I don't know if the MOU has any language that would prohibit, cost, but my understanding is that the repository was designed and built to be free of charge.
And this would,
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, Kyle, can you remind everyone the limitation on materials we've taken there and how this particular developer has already taken there? Because this is
Yes.
not the first approval,
So
not the first request to go over the limit.
right. So when we initially had approved them to move material or bring material to the repository, there was no cap on the amount of material that they could bring. We did not let them. We did not relay that information to them. In the MOU, it spells out pretty explicitly that there are limits to the amount of material that can be brought up to the repository based on, I believe, a building permit, number of building permits, along with some other provisions. And in that MOU, if your requester would like to bring more than the outlined limit, it has to be on approval of CPHE, EPA, and Lake County. The developer has brought, I believe, approximately, I want to say it's like 27 to 30,000 cubic yards of material to date up to the repository, which is a significant amount of material and a large amount of the capacity of the repository. So to date, they've used the repository, and it would be well within our kind of rights, or we could definitely deny this request based on the amount of material that they've already brought up there. The amount of material they're requesting to bring is not a large amount. There's other options for them to, kind of bring this material to other, local landfills. There are other options for them. So, that's kind of where we are with this, specific developer and this request. Is they've kind of gone above and beyond what we initially thought the total amount of material that was going to be brought to the repository based on early estimates, and not clearly defining that that cap of material that can be brought up there.
would this be for kind of the phase 2 or 3 and one of the remaining piles on the initial PUD? I just want to make sure that we don't keep getting this with things going vertical from contracting developers.
Correct. Yeah.
Are we going to continue to get the requests because they haven't exhausted and they just need to move some material because they're putting foundations in?
Kind of based on the conversation with the consultant, is that this would be the last request, is that they've done the excavation of the site and they've kind of stockpiled this material because they wanted to bring it to the repository. I can confirm that with them, that this would be the end all, kind of be all request. And I'm just trying to, I just had the field inspection report up from that outlined where exactly in the redevelopment that this material came from. I think it was phase 3.
That's my recollection.
It's over near the O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a particular objection. I think if we allow them to dump, I'd want to be sure, which I think has been happening, but I'd want to be sure that they meet the county's compaction needs, you know, and are signed off, and have somebody, you know, making sure that that happens, and then that the county does a survey for the group's edification of, you know, how we can continue to consider requests coming in.
Okay. Yeah, so the material that is currently stockpiled is from the phase 3 part of the PUD.
And just so, this is Melanie Granberg, just so everybody has the information, I'm looking at the MOU, and the language says disposal of private property cleanup or development waste at the repository will be limited to 2,000 cubic yards per individual building permit unless the 3 parties agree in writing that a different limit is appropriate for a specific project. And many, many months ago in this group, we talked about the challenges associated with inclusion of the language per individual building permit.
Right.
Because I think there were multiple building permits technically that may be coming on this site or might have been issued. So, but that was sort of the original volume that was contemplated per private development.
Correct. And to the best of my knowledge, there still hasn't been any permits issued for this redevelopment, at least a couple months ago when I was talking with building and land use. So that's kind of where this gray area, you know, kind of situation that we got ourselves into occurred, is that, you know, the per building permit language was supposed to be kind of the piece that kept the amount of material per any individual user to that 2,000 cubic yards.
I'm sorry, Kyle, did you say building permits for phase 3 or just building permits overall?
That was my understanding, is that no permits had been issued overall, but that could have changed. That was the conversation I had with Ann Schneider several months ago.
Yeah, they have applied for building permits.
Okay.
And I believe that there's a few that have been issued at this point.
Okay. Thanks for that update.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for the potential residential development, it is not, you know, I mean, clearly in what's been outlined and what they're asking for, if they had 2,000 yards for every 69 unit, you know, that they get a permit for, or 30, it would clearly exceed that kind of
Right.
formula. But I think, I mean, I would be okay right now, you know, saying that would be acceptable, and just to continue to meet whatever compaction is needed, and then for the county, you know, giving Public Works direction to get a survey done. What are thoughts from anyone else?
Would you like the survey done? So kind of back to Melanie's point, would you like that survey done prior to this material being moved up there, or after?
I don't think it's necessary to do it prior to. I mean, again, maybe just working, you know, getting in touch with Michael Irwin and making sure that the condition of the repository right now is meeting compaction, so that we can get as much compaction of what has been deposited there and don't kind of lose ground on any potential space. But
Okay. I'll reach out to Michael and confirm that compaction isn't needed before any of this material would be brought up there. And I'll also reach out to the consultant to see if we can negotiate having them do the survey as part of our approval. It would save the county some money. that'd be the reason why I'd suggest having them do it, and they can coordinate with I'll have them coordinate with Michael if we go down that path. Okay, if there's no other questions about that, we can kind of keep on moving along down the agenda. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the assessment that we had conducted at 218 East 7th Street. Have any of you guys had a chance to look at the report that I sent out? Sarah's nodding yes. Well, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I can briefly summarize. The long and short is the assessment didn't yield any results that would indicate that a moisture issue is what's causing the paint bubbling that the homeowner is seeing. I spoke with the individual who conducted the assessment to, get some further insight, and he, other than what's outlined in the report, he really didn't have a good explanation as to what's causing this bubbling issue. So I did discuss with him kind of the options that we would have as remedies to this issue, one being essentially a repaint of the affected areas, and two being a containment via a siding. And it was his opinion that at this point the siding option might be the best route for this house, given that we haven't discovered the cause of this bubbling issue, but it's not moisture, and rather than putting more money into say the repainting option and having it fail for essentially a third time at this point, it might be to the benefit of the worker to consider that containment option. And I know that I want to be able to help out this homeowner. We've been working with them for 5 years now, from when we first initiated a soil removal to this point. And I think that they've been very cooperative, and I do want to help them out. So I think the best and the most permanent solution for us moving forward would be to look into that siding option, and so I kind of wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that proposal.
Hey Kyle, this is Melanie again. Is the bubbling on all sides of the house? I recall someone telling me that there was not bubbling maybe on the south side of the house.
Yeah, I believe that's the only part of the house that isn't experiencing it. There is bubbling on all other sides of the property.
It's the west side of the house, Melanie, the house that sits closest to the adjacent home, the neighbor's home, where it doesn't get a lot of sun exposure.
Yeah.
Because of being in, so close. I think it was like maybe 5 feet or something. And the north part of the house is not as bad as the south and east conditions of the house.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I just noted in the Foothills report that there were sources of moisture on the north and east sides of the house. And so that's why I was wondering if it was different or worse.
Yeah, and from talking with the person that did the assessment, it sounds like the sprinkler system, it doesn't reach the upper parts of the house, and they're still seeing bubbling above where the sprinkler is hitting the house, which also led the assessor to believe that it's not a moisture, or it's not an issue caused by the sprinkler system.
Yeah, the suggestions in the assessment seemed more like kind of general homeowner best practice suggestions rather than something to put in place and then see how that might affect the rest of it.
Yeah, and
So
I think
I would,
the main takeaway for me is that there isn't a moisture issue that's causing this bubbling. So if we, were to go down the containment route, the containment wouldn't exacerbate any underlying moisture issue. And that's the kind of the conversation I have with the assessor. He doesn't believe that putting that containment would, make an issue. So
Kyle, this is Melanie again.
mhm.
If it's not a moisture issue, why would we not consider going back to the manufacturer of the primer and the paint to say, we've hired an industrial hygienist to look at your theory about why your products were failing, and we've proven that that is not the case, and insist that they at their own expense try to remedy it.
So that is certainly an option. For me, in knowing that, having had conversations with the homeowner, I'd like to find a solution that is, quick and permanent. And if we go down the route of trying to, rectify this paint issue, it may cost more time without resolving, anything. And that, that's just an additional delay for this one particular property owner, which I would like to try to avoid. But it's certainly an option. If the work group feels strongly that we should, re-examine the paint issue, it definitely is an option.
I agree. Oh, go ahead, Melanie.
No, that's okay.
I was going to say, I agree with Kyle, and I wonder though if we can, not completely disregard holding the contractor accountable at all, without, though, again, I think as we've discussed this issue time and time again, the timeliness of the response and resolving the condition of the home is kind of highest priority. So how can we swiftly, make this claim to that group and get some sort of financial reimbursement there while continuing to move ahead with the suggested remedy? I guess I could look at the lawyers on that one.
Yeah, so that's certainly something that I'm gonna have to, kind of raise the attention of our, site AG if we want to try to use a moisture assessment to get any sort of rebate or refund from the painting piece of it. That's not something that I've explored yet, but that's something I can get on their radar. And start having conversations with risk removal about.
I mean, Kyle, I would be happy to have a conversation with your AG about it. It's, Commissioner Mudge, the way it's going to work if you want to move quickly to remedy the home is to have this committee decide to put in place whatever remedy they're going to do, either, agree to put up siding or whatever it is. And then this group would just have to run the risk that they make demands on, the painters and they never get any recovery. I can't guarantee you that you would be able to recover, from them. And then you run into the risk of, them saying, well, if you moved ahead without allowing us to try something else, then, you didn't mitigate your damages and we didn't have an opportunity to make it better. It becomes very complicated. I guess the long and short of it is you just can't be assured that you would get reimbursement if you want to move quickly, which is fine. But the group just has to know that.
But haven't we already brought this to their attention and they've had a chance to remediate, to fix?
Yeah, so they, they went through a warranty process. So risk removal went through a warranty process with both the priming company and the painting company. Their analysis and their determination, it was a moisture issue. So we could go back to them saying we've done a moisture assessment in the house and do not believe that it's a moisture issue, and kind of see where that gets us with their an offer to either redo some of the work, or I don't exactly know how that would play out, but
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I know it's a greater risk, but are weighing our risk of losing that money, which I know is important, or, I think I'd like to prioritize the homeowner's, reality of the condition of which they are living right now and having to deal with this over a number of years. So I guess I'm asking or stating that I would like to take that risk and move forward and resolve this for the homeowner.
And I agree. I kind of second that. I think that we, should take steps towards looking into, a containment or siding. At least, we can kind of do it two-pronged. I could start getting, quotes and kind of a project plan for, what siding and containment would look like while we explore any further warranty we might be able to, get through the painting and priming company.
And so this is Linda Kiefer. So I mean, I agree with the two-prong, and I do agree that taking the risk is worth it so that we can get this resolved for the homeowner. One question I would have is I'm assuming that they just painted over existing lead-based paint, or did they remove the previous lead-based paint, or was it just encapsulated?
They did removal where the paint was deteriorated, is my understanding, and then they did encapsulation over existing lead-based paint where it was in good condition.
So I guess my question is, in the areas where it's bubbling, if we put siding over it, is there going to be a point in time where the bubbles burst? And then if there's lead-based paint underneath, is that going to be released? And if it was released, will it go anywhere, or will the siding keep it contained in there? So I don't know enough about siding, and because I mean, I know bubbles will burst over time, at some point,
Right.
10 years down the road. So I just want to make sure we're not creating a situation where we're creating lead-based dust down the road. That's going to be another exposure pathway.
No, and that's a good point, Linda. And I looked through the LCCHP phase 2 work plan, and when it references that containment, it references, I believe, like a dust tight type of siding containment. So I don't think it's your typical siding. I think it's a slightly more engineered siding that would be put in place.
Okay, that would be perfect. Okay.
And that's all something that I can confirm as we go through the design process.
Okay. Yeah, but I am for proceeding with looking at the siding and taking the risk that if we put a claim in with the manufacturer, we may or may not get reimbursed. I think it's worth the risk.
So just kind of to go back over it, my to-do list for moving forward will be to reach out to Foothills, who is our contractor in place to do this type of design work. I'll reach out to them to start putting together a plan or design for siding for the house. Simultaneously, I will reach out to risk removal and provide them with the assessment report, so they can potentially put another claim in or work with the primer and the paint company to see if there's any sort of refund that we'd be eligible for given the results of that assessment.
And then Kyle, can you check one more thing? Can you just make sure you have enough money in the state's budget to cover the remediation? So, and if you don't, then we can, get it set up to get it approved and then get a wire. so that the state has the money. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. I'm like 99% sure without having the numbers right in front of me that we have plenty of budget available, but I will double check that.
Okay.
Hey, Kyle, this is Melanie. I would, not telling you how to do your business here, but I would strongly suggest that you have a conversation with the AG about how to approach risk removal on that, because I think this needs to be elevated a step.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that, you know, if the state is taking the lead on trying to see if the manufacturers will contribute to the remedy here, I just want to make sure that your AG's office is, you know, involved in that.
No, that's a good point. And I will certainly reach out to them. Right now, we have a situation where we're supposed to get pre-approval the month before we use any AG resources on a topic, but I will reach out to my supervisor, Colleen, and see if we can kind of sidestep that approval so I don't have to wait till November to put this on his radar.
Is there, I mean, siding can be done in winter months, right? It's not painting. But we will, I mean, I think I can communicate, or however we want to do that with the homeowner. I mean, really, I'm thinking like snow removal around the house and pathways, you know, are kept up with so that we can actually get the work done.
Yeah, so I told the homeowner that we were going to be discussing this topic during this meeting just a few days ago. I had a conversation with her, and I told her I'd be letting her know kind of the results of our conversation and steps forward. So I'll reach out to her after this meeting, letting her know what we've kind of decided here, and to also talk to her about timing and, you know, when we think this is going to happen. You know, obviously, like you said, we'll push for sooner than later, but I think a lot of it's going to have to do with once we actually get a company on board to do the install, whether or not they think that it could happen, you know, with the snow the way it is. So.
Hey guys, this is Colleen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Sorry, sometimes my audio doesn't always work. While I appreciate the conversation and wanting to move steps forwards, I think, you know, from experience, we continue to get bit when we overshare with the homeowner in the sense of, hey, this is a definite, this is what's going to happen, especially if we're pursuing kind of that dual-pronged approach. I think I'd just be mindful of the language I would use. I would also, from experience, look at what, you know, per the phase 2 that you had shared, Kyle, that, hey, there's a specific kind of siding that has to be used. And I think that's really important, because what we've seen in the past is people being like, oh, yeah, no, I don't like that and I don't want that. And now we're doing things that actually, you know, we have to find a happy medium, not just like, oh, well, I only wanted siding that was in yellow. And we find out the industrial siding or whatever siding we have only comes in these 3 colors or whatever it looks like. And yellow is not one of them. I think we just have to be mindful. And as much as I can appreciate what the homeowner's gone through, at the same time, I want to make sure that the choices they get are actually what can be done as it should be done, not just aesthetically in the sense of, preference of the homeowner, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that's totally understandable. And I think that's going to be, a large, part of the discussion with them as we move forward through this design process, is to make sure that they're on board with, the aesthetic, that, how it would affect the house and, all those components. I just pulled up the kind of the enclosure language in our work plan, and it cites Reg 19, Chapter 12, Section 3, and specifically has language regarding a dust tight system. So I'll make sure that as we go through this process that regulation is followed and it's to the specifications outlined in the work plan.
And then I think there has to be, when you start getting some of those numbers, that we have to set a budget, because obviously there could be all different kinds of grades. And, as a homeowner, and if I think I have carte blanche to pick, the best of the best and the everything else, and I'm not saying that we don't want that. I want to say, I just want to make sure that we're just mindful of budget. Because like I said before, this has gotten us in the past. I'm sitting on 4 windows from, a project from years ago because the homeowners decided like, oh, we actually didn't like those windows. And the work group was generous enough to get bigger windows. And I will share that I did not agree with that at the time. And so I don't mean to come across like so negative, but I just want to be mindful that we aren't getting products or things that just because the homeowner wants them versus this is the best system and this is as far as we can go up, in the budget.
No, and I totally agree with you. And I think obviously all the final decisions will be made as part of the work group. And as I get kind of quotes and things of that nature, I'll be sure to share them with the work group so everyone's on the same page and we're all looking at the same information as we kind of make these decisions.
Colleen, I absolutely see your point. I hope that we can move forward, as you have brought up that point a number of times in, creating some more thorough criteria or expectations in that relationship with the homeowners. And to a certain extent, I think this one is not, it's kind of a little bit out of our hands to get it taken care of, but I do agree with you completely. I mean, I think we need to focus on that encapsulating or covering rather than removing, because I can just see that leading into like a whole home remodel that we do not want to touch. So yeah, be very careful about how we move forward with what options are and what's needed.
Okay, does anyone have any other thoughts, questions, comments? All right, hearing none, I have my to-do list and I will be keeping you guys in loop as we move forward.
And then Kyle, before we go to the lead, can I have an update on what was happening with the elementary school and the soils that they wanted to go to the football field?
Certainly, yeah, and I apologize. I just haven't had a chance to delve into this issue as much as I should have. But WeCycle did do testing of both the receiving property and the property that the material would be coming from. They provided me with those results, and I just haven't had a chance to dig too deeply into those results. But I will share those with you and anyone else on the work group that's interested in looking at them after this meeting, and we can kind of talk about the numbers offline and kind of steps forward, moving forward. Just to give an update to the general work group, our beneficial use program has kind of deferred to myself and Linda. They do not want to make a BUD on this particular case, given that the material would not be moving outside of the Superfund site. When we were initially looking at this project, we thought that the material would be moving from within the bounds of the Superfund site to outside of the boundary of the Superfund site. So that's why they are kind of no longer reviewing this process or this project. But there are provisions within CERCLA that would allow EPA and CDPHE to give approvals for this material to be moved in the way that WeCycle is suggesting, while also requiring the receiving property to have an environmental covenant on that material.
And then Kyle, do you remember the volume that they were talking about, the material?
I do not remember that volume off the top of my head, but I believe it was over 20,000 cubic yards. But I could be mistaken. Hold on.
Kyle, this is Melanie. Will you please copy me on whatever you share on this issue?
Sure.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, Linda. I was way off on that estimate. It looks like it was just over 6,000 cubic yards of material.
Oh, 6,000.
Yeah.
So it still could be an option that it goes to the repository.
Yes, but I believe that would require with the approval of the three parties, CDPH, EPA, and the county. I believe when I first looked into this project, I thought that they fell into the exemption of being city or county, but Melanie pointed out that the school district is its own separate entity, so they would have to follow kind of the other provisions of the repository MOU.
Yeah, and the reason that it can't go there without that is because it doesn't meet the criteria for disposal there.
Correct. Yeah, that was the other component of it.
Are low enough that they don't meet the criteria for going to the repository.
Yeah, the trigger criteria. Any other questions about the elementary school project? All right, hearing none, I believe the next item on the agenda was to discuss the current blood lead levels. And with that, I will pass it off to either Heidi or Colleen.
Yeah, it's me, Heidi. Hi, everybody. I guess everyone got the email that I sent yesterday out. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So yeah, the first, I know we can all read and I kind of always go through it, which I'm happy to do. But the top three are just the old cases that we've been looking into, or just keep trying to get those back in. I sent letters again and tried calling again. No one's answering, but I don't know, what really to do, especially the first kiddo that's now 13. Not that matters, we still want to check in, but I called yesterday again and they actually, I'm pretty sure it was the kid hung up on me. So yeah, that's cool. But I did send them a letter and just saying, we just would like to know that your kiddo obviously is in the lower and regular levels of blood lead. And so that's all. We're not trying to harass or anything, but I don't know. I don't know what else to do, if there's any suggestions. Oh, Melanie didn't receive it. So yeah, and then the next one's the property we're talking about. And I apologize, I think I changed it for some reason, but his reading, or that kid's reading, is actually a 4. So
Okay.
it is lower than 5, so I apologize on that one.
Well, that's good, because that kid was trending much higher several months ago, correct?
He finally came down a couple months ago, but was very high there for a bit, for sure.
Yeah.
Melanie said she doesn't have this, so I was going to try to send it to her really quick.
Oh, you can keep going. It's just
Okay.
for future, Heidi. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Okay. And then the next one was also one that's been really high in the past, but slowly has come down, and they really don't respond well to me asking. They said it just really increases their anxiety, so they come in whenever they feel. The one that's the 4864. So, you know, I guess we have to respect people at some point. That's just what's best for them. I mean, she is slowly coming down. So the 5207, I don't know. I just can't get those people to come back in. I don't think COVID has helped us, obviously, in those situations, but let's see. I did get to remove 2 others that aren't on here now that are, and then the 917, I don't know him to come back either. So it's just, sometimes I'm just kind of at a loss, as I don't know why people come in, or they get out of the Head Start / preschool, and then they, of course, these shouldn't therefore. But anyway, I will just keep trying. I was able to leave a message last time, and then the other day it was full. So I'm just sending alerts. And then Diamond, and then the 818 Baby Doe. That one has been really good in coming down. They were a 9 in January, and they did lasting on the I did the water. So they were really happy to see that she's still coming down and hasn't had any side effects of any of that.
Hey, Heidi, can I just remind you to refer to them by the client number, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry. I
That's
will.
okay.
Thank you. And then I just have the 5171 and the 5174 that just came in just the end of September to get tested. 5174 said they have done some remodeling, moving in the backyard, and their kiddo loves dirt, so we'll just retest in December. And that's kind of all I have.
Well, and it's good that there's kind of an explanation behind that kind of higher number.
Right.
So it looks like there's no properties that we're kind of considering doing any immediate investigation on.
No, thankfully we did finally get at least the ones down, or yeah, just slowly coming down. So yeah, looking okay at this point.
No, that's good. It's reassuring to see.
Yep. And obviously we didn't have as many outreach this summer, or maybe not obviously, but we did not. But I did do some at the center, and they're just continuously sending me people. So I feel like, you know, we're still trying to move forward and get people to come in. So
Are your guys' schools open for in-person learning, or is it virtual?
it's like every other day.
Okay.
And then it's kind of had some closing due to different exposures, but as much as they can be.
Okay.
So I guess that's all I have. Just to say, we just finished with our grant for blood lead and just did a lot, as much as we could, and just with flyers and different outreach items such as that to the schools and trailer parks and hospital clinics, all that.
Did you guys see any kind of results from those flyers, or not really?
I just think with school starting back, kids have just, and parents have just thought, oh, we need to get them back in. So I'm hopeful that maybe that's helping, but
Yeah, and that makes sense. I'm sure this is just taking a back burner to, what's in the forefront of everyone's minds right now.
right, exactly.
Okay, kind of moving on to the last few items of our agenda. Was there any other items I missed or didn't add that you guys wanted to discuss?
I think just another item was the XRF gun. We were just kind of wondering if you wanted to take that away and
Yeah, I still think that I still think it doesn't make sense for you guys to maintain that piece of equipment. Um, we certainly can use the contractor that I have in place to do any, preliminary screening if we think an immediate, screening is necessary. So yeah, I'm still a proponent of you guys looking to get rid of that.
I guess we're just kind of wondering how we go about starting that, or but maybe that's
Yeah, and I apologize. I think that was a to-do item from our last meeting that I was supposed to reach out to our rad folks. So I'll put that back on my list and
all good. It's hard.
find out who I need to, if there's any resource here at the state that I could put in contact with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Kyle, if there isn't anyone at the state, I mean, I can look at EPA and see if they know someone that would be interested in a donation. So
Honestly, so we're opening another operable unit for the Clear Creek Superfund site. We're opening an operable unit for residential waste piles actually. And I know that we're trying to involve the local health department to potentially do screening. So it might be that they could utilize it. I'll explore that avenue as well. Sorry, I'm just jotting down some notes. Any other questions, topics you guys want to bring up? Okay, hearing none, do we want to try to schedule our next work group meeting?
yes.
Okay, let me pull up my calendar real quick. So looking at the beginning of the year, my January is pretty wide open. I don't know if January would work for any of you guys. Otherwise, we can, push it into February.
Why don't we keep it in January? Because I was gonna remind Colleen and Kyle, if in December you could start looking at your budget needs for the upcoming year. If you can send those, to me in December, and then we can approve them in January, and then I can do the wire transfers in February. And I mean, that's just a soft schedule. If we need to go, push it back a little bit, that's certainly fine, because I mean, your budget needs more than I do, but
Right.
that's just to kind of stay consistent with what we've done in the previous years. So if we have it in January, then we can make sure no one runs out of money if we're in that situation. So
Okay, yeah, that works for me. I'm open on the 6th. It's another Wednesday. We can do Wednesday at 11 like we've been doing for the last few meetings. So if that works for everybody, I'll go ahead and get that scheduled.
Let me just,
Which date did you say?
Wednesday, January 6th.
that should work.
Okay, yeah, and if anything changes, we could always, we can always adjust the date as we get closer to the meeting, but I will put a placeholder on the 6th for now.
Awesome.
And I will definitely be in touch with the work group as I kind of get answers to some of my to-do items. And I also look for an email from me with the results of the analytical data collected by WeCycle.
Cool.
Kyle, this is Melanie. I just a reminder that the commissioners can't take official action or vote, do this stuff via email.
Right,
So
right.
if we need to notice another meeting to go over all of this, if we can have some of it, kind of compiled and then get that to them in advance so they have everything in their notice, their public notice, that's probably easiest for them.
Okay, but as I get, say like draft plans or kind of any updates, I can share those with them without a public meeting, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
they just can't take action or, really have discussion about it, but you can certainly send out documents.
Okay, yeah, and likely that's what I'll do. And, once I have, maybe try to wait until I have a few topics that we can discuss rather than try to post several different public meetings. It might be just easier that way.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining today. I appreciate all your input and I will be in touch.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody. Thanks, Melanie.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.